One thing I've noticed over the years is that oftentimes the people that talk about, tone and charity and, being nice and all that kind of stuff, the people that talk about that the most are usually the least nice, the least charitable, and have awful, vicious tones, at least privately. They put on a good face, but privately, there's not a lot of charity at all. In fact, the first person that I noticed this with was Ruslan. Although Ruslan, I have to admit, Ruslan KD's content, somebody told me that it had gotten a lot better, and I had watched a few things, lately, and it has. I mean, I'm not gonna agree with him on lots of stuff, and I don't think I wouldn't watch him religiously or anything like that, but I feel like he has gotten better, and I'm not gonna take credit for it, but I think it's my fault. I'm not gonna take credit for it, but let me take credit for it. I'm just kidding, but in any case, I consider myself a pretty charitable guy, and I think a lot of you guys agree. You've told me this many times in the comment section and privately and all that kind of stuff, and so I appreciate that. I really do try to be. I try to be very charitable. I have a lot of friends that people wouldn't expect to be my friends, and I like a lot of people that people wouldn't expect me to like. And so I appreciate you noticing. I feel like a lot of my enemies try to project a reputation on me that I'm like this big ogre and I just rip everybody to shreds, and it's really not the case. And anyway, in any case, let me say that, I often wonder sometimes. I wonder why I'm like that. And I wonder, like what I mean is, I wonder why, like, some people would tell you that I'm like the meanest guy around, but most people recognize that I'm not. In fact, they're confused as to why I'm friendly with certain people, whatever. I don't know. I really don't know what it is, but I do know something about myself, and I was against one thing I've because I've thought a lot about this. One thing I've recognized about myself is that I've known that I've been against the woke stuff and the identity politics for very different reasons than a lot of my friends. And I never let it get in the way of teaming up with anybody. I never let it get in the way of joining their podcast or having them on my podcast. But I've always known deep down that, I'm opposing this for very different reasons. And so, but I guess practicing, teaming up with and fighting side by side with people who don't really share your same goals. I think, if you practice that enough, you become charitable. Imagine that. And that's what this season is all about. Christmas charity. I've done this before. I don't think I did it last year, but 12 days of Christmas charity where my content is just fluffy and lovely and like a warm hug. You know what I mean? No negativity about it at all. I can't promise that, though. I can't promise no negativity. But I'm a very charitable guy, and I want to have some charity, and I want to highlight people that I really like. Now, if you remember the first time I did this, I was highlighting people that, I feel like didn't like me, but I liked them, kind of thing, like Joel McDermott and who was the other guy? Brad Mason. I at the time I said I liked him, but I don't think he liked me. I've kind of changed my view on Bradley Mason, although there's still some things I like about Bradley Mason. I'll be honest. There's some things I like about him. But this year, maybe there'll be some of that, but mostly this is just people that I like, and I think that you should follow, and I recommend them, and all of that kind of thing. Now, obviously, I don't want to have to say this every time, but obviously this doesn't mean I endorse every single thing that they say. I shouldn't have to say that, and I feel even stupid saying it right now, but that's just what the case is. And so going forward, all of these Christmas charity videos, you can just assume that everyone I'm talking to, I don't agree with every single thing that they've ever said or done or whatever. But these are just people that I like, and I wanted to highlight them in a spirit of Christmas charity. The very first one is Michael O'Fallon. Michael O'Fallon, he's the guy who runs Sovereign Nations. He's a mover and a shaker in a lot of, really good things that have happened in evangelicalism over the last few years. he's been in the know for quite some time, and he has no problem telling you. It's kind of like Phil Leotardo in The Sopranos, where he has no qualms about telling you how he did 20 years in the can, and he just keeps bringing it up again and again and again. Michael O'Fallon's kind of like that because he was one of the early guys. And listen, I'm not against you reminding everybody that you're one of the early guys. That's fine. It's not like Phil Leotardo, because Phil Leotardo was, anyway, he was annoying. But anyway, did you know that Phil Leotardo, the running theory in The Sopranos is that he was in the closet gay? And that's why he was so upset about Vito actually being gay, and he ended up having him killed? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of theories about that. I don't know. In any case, Michael O'Fallon. So he has been right about a lot of things. I'll never forget I spoke with Michael right in the beginning stages of COVID, because I remember when I spoke to him, I had just moved into this house, and that was right at the beginning of COVID. COVID had been a thing for I don't know, a couple weeks, whatever. And I was kind of getting everything ready in the house, and we were still kind of in that fog, the initial fog of what in the world's happening here. Well, I spoke to Michael, and he in his Michael way, where he tells you things and you understand it, but some of the things you quite don't understand yet. But he was there, and he kind of said, here's how this is going to go. And, Michael was right about a lot of things regarding the COVID situation. And to that, I owe him an eternal debt of gratitude for doing that. Because, we were all kind of, disoriented during that time. There's just no question about it. And if you go back to my content during the beginning of COVID, for the first, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple days, I don't even remember, but a short amount of time, I was a little disoriented as well. But then I got my wits about me very quickly, and I was able to, present you with information that it aged quite well, in my opinion, about the COVID situation. And now, even to this day, more information is coming out, and these vaccines have negative efficacy in some regards. It's just insane what has happened since then. And I got to be honest, Michael helped me get my head on straight. Not even just privately, but also with the stuff he posted publicly. He helped me get my head on straight with a lot of that stuff. I do have one bone to pick with Michael, and that is this. He writes these threads. And and if you follow Michael, again, I recommend you follow him because he's very helpful in some ways. But he writes these threads, and if you follow him, you know what I'm talking about. You feel like you're tracking with him, and you're like, oh yeah, that's a great point, Michael. And he's going into it, and then all of a sudden he loses you, and it's not because you disagree with him. It's just because you don't understand what he's saying anymore. And this thread that he's pinned here on his Twitter is one of those. It's like he talks very clearly about how someone told him in 2009 that this is how you destroy a nation and bring in authoritarianism, identity politics, public health. And he goes into it, and you're tracking with him through the first 3 tweets, and then he starts talking in ways that you don't understand. Maybe it's just because I'm an idiot. It's very possible that I'm an idiot. He's talking about the Fabian window and George Bernard Shaw, and he's just building on top of each other. And I'm sure it's really good stuff. I'm sure. If you're a man smarter than I am, I'm sure you can track with him. But I'll tell you what, a lot of the times I can't. I'm mostly joking because a lot of his tweets are very easy to understand. But sometimes, man, I feel like I need to go to school just to make heads or tails of what he's talking about. I'm just being honest. I'm just a regular guy. I went to public school, and so I guess I can be excused in that way. But no, I really do appreciate Michael's work very much, and I feel like I'm a better man for it. I don't agree with everything he says. I think that there are some, how do I put this? There's some black pilling elements to some of the stuff he puts out there, and I understand it. I totally get it, but that can be hard sometimes. But overall, though, very, very good stuff. I feel like something. This is the other thing about Michael O'Fallon's tweets. He tweets. He's very specific sometimes, and then sometimes he's very vague. And when he's very vague, I start to think to myself, is he talking about me? And I don't mean me specifically, but guys like me. Is he talking about guys like me? And I think he is, but then I can't track with it because I don't really quite understand everything that he says. And so it's like I wish I could be helped by it, but I just don't know because I don't really know what he's saying. Again, that just might be an issue of my own intelligence. And that's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But yeah, Michael, I hope you see this. I remember there was one time that, who was it? It was Benny Hinn's nephew or cousin or whatever his name is. What's his name? Costi Hinn, yeah. Costi had gone on that tirade. You remember the tirade where he was against, I forget who exactly he was against. Oh, it was Doug Wilson. And then also Michael O'Fallon. And he was like, he wrote this whole thread. But then and so I actually made a video. And in that video, I was defending Michael O'Fallon from Costi's attacks. But then Costi retracted it all the next day, and so I never got around to posting the video. I still have it, but it's because I think Michael's a good guy. Sometimes I'll read a tweet, and it's very rare that I read a Michael O'Fallon tweet and I'm like, I completely disagree with that. But it happens. But that's okay. That's fine. I still think he's a good follow, and so hats off to you, brother. You were right about a lot of things, and God bless you. I hope that you're continuing to be right about a lot of things. I find your content very helpful. If you don't follow Michael O'Fallon, I would recommend following Michael O'Fallon. Again, this is the last time I'll have to say this in this whole series. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with everything he does, but I do think he's a net positive when it comes to, evangelicals and how we're organizing and moving and things like that in the United States. God bless you, brother. And stay tuned because I have a video coming out later today about Kanye's comedy sketch on the Alex Jones Show. It's really not much to say, but I thought you'd like to see my real reaction to it. I recorded the video yesterday when I first saw it. Yeah, there's some things afoot. There's no question about it. In any case, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Take care. A lot of people, whatever they write in their little comment section here, I find it interesting what people choose to write and what they're like in Twitter. And what Michael here has is a quotation from Charlie Kirk, and it says, "Michael O'Fallon, otherwise known as Morpheus." And I gotta say, that's pretty accurate. He is kind of like Morpheus, because Morpheus was the same kind of thing. Like, he would talk, and you'd be tracking with him, and then, he'd be talking in a riddle, and you didn't understand what the heck he was talking about. That was one of my complaints about Matrix. I understood, half of the dialogue. Still a good movie, though. Still a good movie, and Michael O'Fallon is still a good Twitter follow. God bless.